On the waterfront, The Godfather, Apocalypse Now. The star who brought these characters to life, Marlon Brando, reached heights few actors ever approach. He pioneered a realistic style of performance in mainstream American film, fundamentally changing the craft and setting the standard for modern acting. This isn't about his celebrated performances or social activism. We're exploring the challenging aspects of working with Brando on film sets, the refusal to learn scripts, unusual demands, and conflicts with cast and crew. While his filmography includes exceptional work, there's also substantial mediocrity. Examining these behind-the-scenes accounts reveals a conflicted performer who'd lost his enthusiasm, someone who'd stopped investing himself in the work. Brando's professional journey breaks down into 4 phases: his breakthrough, his decline, his comeback, and his final apathetic period. His problematic conduct intensified through each phase until he became nearly impossible to work with. Early years and rise. Born in Omaha, Nebraska in 1924, young Brando developed tendencies toward impersonating others and playing tricks. He failed academically, got expelled from high school, then military school. He abandoned education and joined his sisters in New York to study performing. He trained with Stella Adler, absorbing the Stanislavski approach that emphasizes deeply embodying roles. Starting in 1944, he began performing in stage productions and already proved challenging to manage, frequently showing defiant conduct. His cinematic breakthrough began in 1950 with The Men. He continued with A Streetcar Named Desire in 1951, earning his first Oscar nomination. He earned the Best Actor Oscar for his 1954 performance in On the Waterfront, which remains recognized as one of cinema's greatest achievements. Performances became uneven over time. He worked with Frank Sinatra in Guys and Dolls, and conflicts were frequent. This early on, Brando was already disruptive. He enjoyed pranks, once convincing everyone he drowned on set. Brando had already begun using cue cards rather than memorizing dialogue. The decline. Brando's downfall arrived through One-Eyed Jacks and Mutiny on the Bounty. One-Eyed Jacks was the sole film Brando directed. The budget ballooned from $2 million to $6 million due to his perfectionist approach. The 3-month shoot extended to 6 months. The film failed commercially. Mutiny on the Bounty destroyed his reputation. Brando intentionally undermined the production, likely caused a directorial change, and would simply refuse to perform when things didn't go his way. The film bombed and nearly bankrupted MGM. Hollywood was losing patience. Brando began accepting roles purely for money, even a 5-picture contract with Universal. All failed except The Ugly American. The 1960s nearly ended his career. The comeback. He experienced a resurgence through The Godfather and Last Tango in Paris. Brando as Vito Corleone ranks among cinema's most iconic performances. However, Paramount strongly opposed the casting. After causing financial losses and developing a terrible reputation, the studio executive initially refused. He relented under 3 stipulations: reduced compensation, financial responsibility for delays, and a screen test. Brando maintained better behavior during production. There's that photograph of Robert Duvall wearing cue cards for Brando. The prankster also returned. He had props add weights beneath him during a carrying scene. He won a mooning contest by mooning over 500 background performers. Brando earned the Best Actor Oscar, which he declined to protest Hollywood's portrayal of American Indians. He followed with Last Tango in Paris, with cue cards positioned around the set. Final years, complete apathy. With these acclaimed performances, both commercially successful, Brando had returned. But so had his ego and on-set problems, which he escalated to unprecedented levels. In The Missouri Breaks, Brando was beyond control by director Arthur Penn, who eventually surrendered and allowed complete freedom. He fully improvised everything, adopted an Irish accent without justification, behaved like an absurd British aristocrat. Critics weren't impressed, but 1978's Superman might represent Brando at his absolute laziest. He portrayed Superman's father, Jor-El, receiving $3.7 million plus 11.75% of profits, totaling approximately $19 million additional, all for merely 10 minutes of screen time. Christopher Reeve received only $250,000 for playing Superman. Despite the enormous payday, Brando remained difficult. Getting him from his trailer proved challenging because he'd earn even more if production exceeded 12 days. They had to entice him out with food. He had his dialogue written on the diaper of the baby he shared scenes with. The ultimate absurdity was Brando's suggestion that Jor-El would be a bagel since nobody knows what Kryptonians look like. He proved even more challenging in Apocalypse Now. Already quite heavy when hired, Brando promised Francis Ford Coppola he would get in shape. It was startling when he appeared on set substantially overweight to play Colonel Kurtz, who was supposed to be lean. He came for 3 weeks of shooting, earning $1 million weekly, and hadn't bothered reading Heart of Darkness as requested. The two spent days exploring the narrative and character, halting production. Brando announced his acting retirement, which lasted only 9 years, returning in 1989 with a dry white season. And now we enter Brando's truly apathetic era. He delivered a great performance in The Freshman, but also earned a Razzie for The Island of Dr. Moreau and really intensified his on-set antics. Working with Johnny Depp during Don Juan DeMarco, Brando was in full prankster mode. Depp even gave Brando an electronic flatulence device, to which Brando declared he'd found God. On The Island of Dr. Moreau, he used an earpiece to receive lines, but occasionally it would intercept other frequencies. Fellow actor David Thewlis said Brando would be mid-scene when suddenly he'd receive police communications and repeat things like, "There's a robbery at Woolworth's." He wanted his character to reveal he's actually a dolphin. Some absurd demands did appear in the final version, like wearing an ice bucket on his head. The Score, his final feature, had Brando acting with Robert De Niro and Edward Norton. Brando was a nightmare for director Frank Oz. Brando would call him Miss Piggy because Oz performed that character and refused to accept direction. De Niro had to act as an intermediary. Brando reportedly performed many scenes in his underwear because shots were framed above the waist. On July 1st, 2004, Marlon Brando died of respiratory failure. Understanding why. As a performer with such innate talent, why did he choose this path? His reluctance to memorize dialogue could appear lazy. But to Brando, memorizing predetermined lines felt artificial because that's not how people communicate. People don't know what they're going to say beforehand. These were the authentic expressions Brando pursued, pausing to locate the right word and considering how to construct a sentence. But the reason for appearing in numerous poor films was because he simply didn't care. Acting was once the only thing he enjoyed when young, and he quickly lost passion for it. During the 1960s, he became deeply involved in political activism and distracted by personal affairs, becoming disillusioned. He didn't view acting as significant anymore, just a method to earn income. Some suggest he still enjoyed acting itself, but struggled to reconcile that with his career. He believed some of his best acting occurred in Burn, which few people saw. And the emotional turmoil in Last Tango in Paris made him unwilling to destroy himself emotionally for a film again when simpler options were available. People were willing to pay him just for the name alone. As Christopher Reeve said, it's unfortunate that we didn't care what kind of performance Brando would deliver, so Brando stopped caring as well. But let's conclude positively. During publicity for The Score, a journalist attempted to contact Brando for an interview and received back a fax stating Marlon Brando is unavailable, signed by Dr. Tim, one of his 2 English Mastiffs. Even until the end, he maintained his childish sense of humor. Thanks for watching. What are some of your favorite Brando moments? Leave your comments below, and until next time, take care.